So, creating content is often seen as a very expensive process, and understandably, creating quality content is important to invest in. But how can you create quality content at scale without busting budgets? Well, I've got just the people to talk to today. I've got Tyler and Conor from Not Going To Uni. So let's get on with the chat. All right, guys, how you doing?
Very well.
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
Very
good
well.
to see you. It's good
Glad
to
to be on this side of the camera.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Tyler, I think this is the first time we've had you
Debut.
on this side.
On this side,
Which is great. You've been on the other side
Worked
plenty
on
of
the other
times.
side plenty times. Yeah,
Plenty
it's nice to be on
times.
this side.
But thanks for joining, and Tyler, thanks for getting this set up as well. Looks lovely. So let's just start off. A few intros. Conor, tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm Conor, a regular star of
You
the
are,
pod now. I'm going to start getting autographs and signed photos ready for the fans of your pod.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, of course.
For a signed autograph.
I am the managing director of a company called Not Going To Uni, forward-thinking Gen Z marketing agency, trying to engage young people in making the best possible career choices when they leave school, college, or whatever pathway they go down.
Nice, good stuff. And yourself, Tyler?
So, I'm Tyler. I'm head of production for Not Going To Uni. So I do the nitty gritty and the day work for Conor.
Heavy lifting.
So I do the heavy lifting. I go out and I produce our content from end to end. So I oversee a lot of our creative content, and specifically, which is something I guess we'll come on to, specifically working with the Royal Air Force to oversee their entire content package, which is our biggest client.
Well, there's some great stuff going on with the RAF, so we'll definitely be talking about that for sure. So let's start off with Not Going To Uni. Not Going To Uni, been around for a number of years, a job board. Mm-hmm. Why move into the space of content production?
Well, it was an area when I came back that I always had half an eye on, looking at the early careers market. And when I came back to Not Going To Uni, the brief from the board was the rebirth of Not Going To Uni, taking it to the next level. It was a business that was stagnant, was just a job board and had just been a job board for, at that time, 16 years, hadn't progressed, hadn't had any new initiatives. And I had half an eye on the market, and my biggest bugbear was there was a lack of good quality content in early careers. There wasn't a lot of very good quality content. Companies couldn't afford, and afford is probably the big word there, to actually create content. Early careers budgets, especially apprenticeship school leave budgets, are often the smallest. To create video content, good imagery, etc. So there was a big reliance on stock, and there was a big reliance on, no, we can't do that, so we're just going to leave it and we're just going to slap some job ads up. So it was really born out of a lack of good quality content on the market that I saw, a need for Not Going To Uni to evolve as an organisation when I came back, and also ultimately give everyone an equal opportunity in the market to be able to do what the big recruitment marketers do, even on their smaller scale budgets.
Yeah, I like that actually. I think something I'm particularly passionate about is, the world of employer branding and talent marketing is often seen as being restricted because of that, the perceived cost to entry.
I always say cost should never be a barrier. I say it to the sales team from a sales perspective, like, cost should never be the barrier, because as an organisation we are very bespoke in the way we build things, and the way we can work to most budgets, to be honest with you. So we never want cost to be the barrier. We want that to never be the reason why someone can't work or Not Going To Uni and do some of the best things.
Yeah, nice. That thing about creating content and then understanding of the market, but also reach into the market. Gen Z recruitment marketing agency. I like that combination. Tell me a bit more about that. There's a thing about creating that quality content, but also the route to market that you own yourself rather than going through third parties.
Ultimately, we're connecting the dots, right? Instead of you working with a multitude of different suppliers and agencies and so on and so forth, doing very different things, having very different skill sets, we're saying that we've got a joined up approach where actually we can create your content, and we know Gen Z. I mean, when you look at the age demographic of the people in the business,
100%.
When you look at, our access to our ambassador network, when you look at our experience in the market, we understand what content works for the audience, so we can create content that speaks volumes to young people, be it video, podcast, live stream, whatever that may be. And then when you then move along, we've got the distribution, we've got the networks on social, on the job board, and so on, where we can create a strategy, create the content for said strategy, and execute with an audience already there, and an audience who already also knows Not Going to Uni. You know, one of the things people love about Not Going to Uni, and Prue, one of our salespeople, said this when she joined our company. She said, it's amazing because everyone knows who Not Going to Uni is.
Yeah.
She was like, I don't actually need to tell people what Not Going to Uni is because they kind of loosely know. It does what it says on the tin, and it's been around for a while.
Totally.
So we're connecting all this up together to be a best-in-class end-to-end agency for people who want to engage young people.
Lovely. Well, look, it's great to have that. I know, kind of personally work with you guys, and you just sending out a WhatsApp message to your WhatsApp groups, getting insights.
We did it on one of your episodes, didn't we?
Exactly, and that's like, I think that's great, and that kind of does, it grounds yourself in the content you're creating, because we can have great ideas, but if it's not resonating with the people it's intended to resonate with, then what is the point, really?
Exactly.
So at the start, I talked about this thing about how content production is often seen as being quite restrictive in terms of price. But how do you scale quality content, Tyler, without busting the budgets?
So I think it kind of harks back to where we started. I mean, the start of Not Going to Uni's creative journey, we started as freelance. So Conor came to me and said, as a freelancer, let's start creating some content. And the focus wasn't on, we don't have tens of thousands of pounds worth of kit. We had no kit. We had whatever I had at home to work with. And the focus on was, well, it doesn't cost anything to use your brain. Coming up with ideas and creative content. There is time in that, and time is money. But it's about let's come up with ideas and good ideas to create content. And then once we've done that, we can figure out, right, what are the resources we've got access to film. Not, oh great, we've got 6 cinema cameras, we can go out and film stuff. And most people jump to, I've got this equipment, or I can get access to it, let's do it. I think the focus, and it still is now, and the way I work with my teams is focusing on skill set first over filling it out with, you don't need a big team or a big setup or weeks worth of filming to create quality content. You've got to put in that mindset and that thought process first, and that is, I think, where the cost saving is going, right, use your brain first, use your creativity first, then worry about the budget.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, there's, albeit I did an episode of Robert Payton about the value of ideas. Ultimately there isn't, it's not an overhead as such. So as you say, it's good to have that to really push something through, then solve a problem. We wouldn't be the first people to say how, production is about solving problems as well, or trying to solve challenges. So let's talk a bit more about how you've gone about. So we started off with talking about how, starting, not say with a kit in mind, but with an idea, going in quite lightweight. I remember actually we worked on Wreckfest, I think, together. And that was our first ever
virtual,
wasn't it?
You got me in with Conor.
That was our first ever more advanced bit of content that wasn't just here's a Zoom call.
Could have easily have been something like this, couldn't it? But then might have been restrictive at the time.
We were. That was the COVID Wreckfest. So it was completely virtual, but pre-recorded sessions. That was our first sort of higher value piece of content we created for ourselves.
So you've got to start somewhere, and that's then led on to the work you've been doing for the RAF and all other.
That started for free.
The
RAF.
Tell us a bit about that then. Let's have a chat.
So we never. I'm giving away secrets to our competitors here, but I mean, it's not rocket science. Nice. Read any business book, it will tell you to test the market first, and test the market's what we did. We came up with this idea, and I sat down, and I had, in fact, I've shown you the page at home that's got the three pillars. So you had NGTU, NGTU Create, NGTU Social written down on a document, and it's actually dated like whenever it was when I came back to the business. And for NGTU Create, the first note says like case study, because I knew we had no credibility. We had no, like Tyler said, it's not, we couldn't even do the all the gear, no idea things. We had no gear. So we had nothing. So the first thing we did was we went to a client, and in this case it was the RAF. We looked at our client base and said who you know might be able to let us come and film some stuff for them. And we thought, okay, the RAF, we already work with them. We've worked with them for a number of years. Let's knock on the door and say, look, we want to start this new arm of our business. Can we come and film something for you? We don't know what. We don't know what.
Nice.
But this is what we kind of want to do. And there was an initial, okay, do you know what? Why not? So we went there. Tyler put together a crew. We filmed in the end three videos.
Three videos. 2 days.
Yeah, 3 videos over 2 days at RAF Bryce Norton. And when we were there was a moment where I was like, fuck me, we've got a product.
Yeah, nice.
You know, when we were sat there, we were in a Hercules filming with these engineers, and I was like, there's a product here.
Yeah, nice.
There's actually a product here. Listening to what they were saying, watching what the crew did, went away, Tyler did the edits, and they were like, oh yeah, we really like these are really good. And that was when I had a grin, because I was like, right, we're cooking now. We've got a bit of gas, let's go. And that opened a door that I don't think I ever could have imagined in terms of what happens next. Was just...
But you had an idea about the direction.
Knew the direction,
thing, isn't it?
Just didn't know the velocity of the direction. You know, we were on a ship, just didn't know how far said ship was going to go. You know, it was. But there's value in doing things for free, and you know that strengthened our relationship with the RAF. It gave us a great case study. We still do stuff for free with certain scenarios, if we know it's going to either strengthen the relationship or also help us. So, you know, recently there was a client who wanted to add to their footage this is only last week, they wanted to add to their footage and wanted to get some outdoor nature shots included. And the salesperson came to me and said, oh, what do you think? And, you know, should we charge for this? It's half a day. And I said to her, look, do you think this is going to, one, help strengthen the value of the client, but two, you know, long term, is this a client we're going to be working with? She was like, yeah, 100%. And I was like, well, let's go and do it then.
Nice.
Because it's going to make better content, which makes us look better, and it strengthens our relationship for the long term value of the client. So, but no other agency creating content will do that. Everything will be a charge. You know, absolutely everything. We're trying to make sure that we put the client, the value to the client, the relationship before anything, always.
There's a challenge there, isn't there? Where I think sometimes people are apprehensive about saying, we're not quite sure what this is, but we want to do something with you. It's like that thing about having something all ready to go, all set up, like the kit, for example. You know, all set up to then say to the client, there it is, we want to do that for you. But actually the confidence to be able to go, look, we want to do this. Can we try it out with you? And this is going to be the benefit of you trying it out with us. And I think that's great. You're kind of taking a leap there, which maybe lots of established businesses aren't prepared to do. Sometimes, I don't know if there's award work perhaps in it, potential award-winning, you know, work, then maybe some hours might be cut out of a budget, you know, for example. But you know, I think you're right. I like that, you know. It's what's talked about in the entrepreneurial world, isn't it?
Yep.
Proof of concept, some sort of minimum viable product, and that's often seen as being a minimum viable. Isn't that? That's not quality. But you got to test it first to see if it's worth scaling.
Yeah,
That's
exactly
what you've done.
Yeah.
So with the RAF, then let's talk more about the kind of things you've been doing. So you did your first 2-day shoot.
Yeah.
And then what other things have you been doing with the RAF since then?
What haven't we done at this point?
Yeah.
Loads. Yeah.
Quite a lot. I mean, you're probably best to talk about the crate stuff. I can, because there's a byproducts come off the crate stuff, but it starts with Tyler and the crate work, I think.
So we've got our traditional shoots. We call them image asset shoots purely because we assemble and collect images to use as assets, so clues in the name.
Yeah,
those are a bit more traditional, going to a location and focusing on a role or an opportunity or something, having a focus and just capturing what we can of it, whether that's interviews, B-roll, drone shots, climbing through caves, climbing up walls, climbing in the back of trucks, going off-roading, whatever it is. We just create content that my rule of thumb on set is to go, is this cool? Would I watch it? If the answer is no, you usually give up and go somewhere else and do something else.
Yeah.
So that's image asset. We then do broadcasts, so we do live internet broadcast on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. We're looking at other platforms as well. In fact, our next live stream, we're opening that up to, hopefully we've got things like LinkedIn that you can live stream on.
Nice.
That's evolved as well, and we can always come back to that, of how live stream has evolved. It started off with people just talking almost podcast-esque like this. Now we've got video games being played on live stream. We had the motorsport team come down and do tours around cars.
Yeah.
So when we say live stream, it's like not interactive in the terms of guests interact, but there's a lot of activities going on in our broadcasts. Podcasts as well, and by the time that this is ready to go out, we'll have shot our latest series of podcast or vidcast, or as we're now calling it, chatcast.
Chatcast, season 3.
And that is, I think the footage will kind of speak for itself, and we'll overlay it over this. It's just a different way of approaching podcasts. Yeah. So we're attributing traditional content names, podcasts, live streams, content shoots, but it's the content that was within that. And then there's a few. We have kind of almost pilot shoots as well, don't we? So we've got the RAF Cook Along, which we shot recently, which was kind of taking podcast concepts of having conversations and putting it into, well, let's do a Jamie Oliver style cooking show at the same time for the Air Force. And it had a purpose, and that content's come out really, really well, and we're confident it's going to gel well. So that's kind of we have traditional packages of content, but we're approaching it in different ways. It's a huge thing.
And actually, with the podcast, that started off with audio only, didn't it?
Yeah.
And it's now become season 2 and then of course season 3 video.
Yeah.
And actually, it's morphing into something more than just a podcast.
It's evolved each series.
Different.
There's been an evolution of what's been executed at the end, which I think's nice. Shows the growth of not going to uni, shows the growth with the client in the Royal Air Force and their appetite to do more and change things. And that all comes from strengthening the client relationship and being open-minded as well on both sides. You need it on both sides. You need to be open-minded, but so does the client, right?
Yeah, totally.
To try new things, and some of it won't go so well, but some of it will.
Well, it's experimentation, isn't it? You've got to have certain experimentation. And also, when you were in that Hercules, remember you told me that you're saying find your force. That in itself is such a rich kind of guide, isn't it? It's such a rich creative vehicle. And when you're talking to me about that and going, okay, what can we do with Find Your Force? I think that in itself shows that actually that's the nugget of a strategy that is basically meaning that it does evolve. And saying ultimately it's got to be rooted into the idea that it's about finding a force.
100%.
Changes the way you do it, which means we can then do, it's natural to then do things like we're doing with season 3.
There's the evolution, and the Find Your Force thing came on the back of that. That was a campaign that they ran that was linked to their TV and their sort of master campaign strategy. Find Your Force was a campaign that actually they'll stop using, but we will continue to carry the name Find Your Force because we believe that it goes so well with what is now the chatcast, as we're calling it. It just works perfectly. The narrative is spot on.
Favourite piece of content that you guys have been involved in?
Are you saying for the RAF or in general?
Let's stick with the RAF, why not? Yeah.
I think my answer's the same either way.
I know what mine is. We could do both actually if you want.
Yeah, go on, yeah.
RAF is definitely adventure training. That was the best week I've had in this business.
Down in Wales, isn't it?
Down in Wales. We were in Crickhowell at their adventure training.
Brilliant,
Every person who joins the RAF will do adventure training in their phase 1 training. In fact, it's the tail end of your phase 1. Just before you get ready to complete phase 1, and we lived phase 1 training.
We just did a week of adventure training.
We did the caving, the climbing, the walking,
abseiling.
We did everything. It was amazing.
Apart from the camping, we went home and had a steak dinner.
That's right. That's
but we had expensive cameras to charge.
That's it.
So, but it was. But even then we went and lived it with them for a bit around the campfire and, had that raw, the raw feeling they had of the fear when you go into a really tight cave in, you know, under lots of rocks, and you know, it was, yeah, honestly, in terms of my weeks running Not Going to Uni, nothing will ever compare with that, because it was out of this world. And the content, when I look back at it, I just smile, because I'm like, this is good content.
It's nice.
It's good, it speaks volumes, it's different, it's engaging, and if you're a young person that, you know, adventure training and being outdoors and things like that appeals to you, that content's going to speak volume, which is why we created it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think actually, funny enough, the favourite content outside of the RAF is actually in Wales as well, was when we went and worked with a company called, they run a scheme called Jobs Growth Wales. They're called Copper, but they run a scheme called Jobs Growth Wales. And Jobs Growth Wales is a programme for young people who are basically, they're almost neats, they're out of education, they're, you know, almost seen as the runts to the litter.
Yeah.
And there's one interview that's the interview that made it, with this guy who's grown up in Wales with a Scouse accent.
Oh, this dude.
North
Yeah.
Wales, is it?
Yeah, he's in North Wales, so he's on the border,
Yeah.
but you expect him, so they all speak fluent Welsh, that's their main language. So
Yeah.
English isn't their first language, Welsh is. But then when he speaks English, this broad Liverpudlian Scouse accent comes out, and you're like... and he's done this interview about, you know, the fact that Jobs Growth Wales basically saved him, and like he just wants to make money for his family and stuff. And it's the first time I've ever been on a content shoot and teared up.
That's lovely, man.
And that's because you sit there and you go, okay, what we're doing has impact.
Yeah.
You know, this is why you work with young people, when you meet people like this lad who, you know, turns around and says, oh, I'm doing this just because I want to help my family eventually and get a good job. And he said, live a happy life. And that was the point when I was like, oh, gonna walk away.
Yeah.
You know, but you sit there and you go like, wow, this is just emotionally, it was the most impactful. So that will always be top of my tree. Just that.
What it's all about.
Because
That's
that
what it's
moment,
all about, isn't it?
that moment just epitomised it. And you go, yeah, you need more people like that, saying stuff like that. That raw, no one told him to say that.
Yeah.
Just came out.
Yeah. And actually, you're creating the environment for someone to say that quite naturally.
Yeah.
Rather
and
than
confidently.
If it comes out false, if it comes out forced, it sounds false. And
It's got the ums and ahs, and it's got the
it's
breaks and the pauses, and you can see him thinking about it. And
It's the most authentic thing. I think it's the most authentic thing we've shot.
Yeah.
Because we didn't try to shoot it.
Yeah.
It was situational. It was just a perfect sort of concoction of
yeah.
things, and we'll stick it in. But it's such a great. It's only 20 seconds worth of content that made it in, but that 20 seconds was more valuable than
A lot.
you know, a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, what you say about, so you're down in Wales, you're literally experiencing the whole thing. That's great from in terms of relationship with the client. It's also understanding the people that you're shooting,
Yeah.
of being fully immersed, you know. But also when it comes to the editing, you know, you just naturally know it.
Yeah.
You know, those things you just wouldn't get if you didn't throw yourself in it like you've done.
Experiencing even on a tiny slither of what we're capturing. We're not just a fly on the wall. We're getting adventure training in Wales. We got suited and booted, and there's a picture of us in like ponchos and
These
stuff.
onesie things.
We got in these caves, and we went. And we crawled through some of the tightest gaps you'll get through with some nice equipment that was a little bit nail-biting at times, but we lived it. We understand the tiny slither of it. Even when we go out and shoot, going back to the RAF, going out and filming job roles, actually getting to speak to them and see what they do and help them and do little things, and then going to the next one and the next one, and you start to understand the whole service picture. And I'm talking to RAF people, and sometimes I know more about the whole RAF picture than they do, because I've worked with engineers, I've worked with...
Whereas they might be one focus.
But it gives you that full picture.
Yeah, and that helps. It's giving a shit.
Yeah.
You know, the worst thing salespeople do when they're agencies, etc., is they don't actually care about what the client does. So ultimately, one of the best things that a salesperson, be it an agency, a creative, whoever's listening really, is giving a shit about your clients, what they do, being inquisitive, asking questions. And that's something that, going back to the strengthening, you know, when you talk about adventure training, that's one of the things that sets us apart with our clients is we actually care about what they do, because we know that in the long run not just strengthens the relationship, but means we can create the best content, we can create the best campaigns, because we hopefully get a deeper understanding of what they do. And not enough people do that. You've got this boxed off way of selling, and we need packages that you can just pull off the shelf and buy, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Create something that meets the need, that because you've been inquisitive, because you've delved in and strengthened that relationship, whatever you create meets the need of said client. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, totally. I think that being curious and asking questions often can be difficult if agencies want to be seen to have all the answers. But you can't, and it's a partnership. That's what partnership is. Asking
it's why we don't
questions.
do the off-the-shelf thing. We can off-the-shelf 5 days of filming will probably cost you this, and we have estimates, but there's a lot behind that. We had a new salesperson join us, and one of the first things he said to me was, we need to build these into packages. And I was like, no, we fucking don't. No way, because you're gonna put yourself in these little boxes. And believe me, you'll watch the quality of what we create, the quality of client we work with, and the outputs and so on just go down and down and down and down and down. Because being bespoke is one of the biggest USPs. Because you can actually customize. Goes back to what I said, price should never be the issue. Actually it should be one of the driving forces, that you can customize around whatever the budget, need, problem, whatever it is. That's the most important thing.
Lovely. Good stuff. Any final thoughts and takeaways? Going back to obviously the thing about creating quality content at scale. Someone's going to that next meeting, talking about content for the next campaign or for the next year, because we're going to be quickly approaching budget season and all that. So if they're going to a meeting talking about content and budgets and planning content, what would you say they should be thinking about or bring to that table?
I think from someone who is boots on the ground producing content, it should always be focused on the people you work with. And I don't just mean picking the right person for the content. I mean, think about, I'd far rather, and this is what we do, I'd far rather have 2 or 3 people on my shoot that cost more, for example, than having 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 people that cost a lot less. Doesn't matter if the price levels itself out. Overall, you're better off having high skilled people spend a little bit more on those high skills, because in the long run you'll spend less because you won't need as big a team, and you'll have better creative minds, and those creative minds are there to help you create something different. And I always, every shoot I do, without fail, my first port of call is, what can I do in this shoot that's different to what I did last time? What weird change can I make? What additional thing can you make? But if you don't have the people with those mindsets, you can't achieve that.
Nice.
I think there's 2 big ones. When you talk about planning, always have in mind that principle of multiple outputs. So you might make a long form video, like the full episode of this pod, for example, but then there's a multitude of outputs from that. There's an audio only version.
Tell me about it.
There's TikTok snippets, YouTube short snippets. There's outtakes. There's this. There's that. You can turn it into a blog. You can always go into it thinking, okay, we're going to invest in creating a master employer brand video. But really what you need to be thinking about is, okay, then what can we do from that video? And that's what we always think. Everything we create for clients, there's always byproducts. It's never you're just getting a 4-minute video. It's never just that. And then when you get to the stage of thinking, okay, what we're going to do, authenticity is the most important thing. Authenticity and diversity of voice. Don't just have the same voice. Ensure there's a bit like the story we were saying about the lad, North Wales training lad for Jobs Growth Wales, that authenticity of that rawness. We've got it in Find Your Force as well. That those raw moments are really, really important, because people see through the BS, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that's come up loads in your pod episodes over the duration you've ran the pod, I think authenticity comes up all the time.
Oh, most times, yeah.
And the whole ignore the BS bit is super important. They're two massive ones. Do you know what? Actually, there's a third. Do your research. Like, look what's on the market, because there's a lot of great content. There's a lot of bad content. There's a lot. There's always the rough with the smooth, right? And I'm always looking what other people are doing, not from a competitive like, oh god, we need to one up them, but because I sent a video last week. I saw I had to talk about the City Century guys. They're running this London Law Consortium, and they've built a video for their for the launch, and I sent it to you guys, and I was like, this is a really good video. And I actually messaged Joe, who's a big driving force behind that City Century Consortium, and I was like, that's really good.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's not created by us. Yeah. And I commented on it and shared it because I was like, this is good.
Yeah, fair enough.
The creators creating good content. There's so many out there making great. We're not groundbreaking original people.
Exactly.
And you should be able to celebrate other content.
Celebrate what other people are doing that's good for the industry. But most importantly, that's where you get your good ideas from as well. Is you might see something in there and go, oh, that could really work when we work with this client, for example.
It's innovation.
Exactly. And beyond your industry as well. I beyond not going to uni, I work in the freelance space and I work with motorsport companies and what have you. And completely different. Automotive motorsport is nothing like careers. Yeah. You can take some of that content and go, oh, I love that. Yeah. How can we package that? Can we package that up for careers? Yeah. And sometimes the answer is no. But employers love different ideas. Yeah. Just because you're not going to come up with an original idea, but it might be different compared to what the rest of the space
what they've
is doing.
already done.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, nice. Actually, we've got episode with Des Yankson, who's acted on quite a few things, lots of TV ads, but also Open All Hours and a CBeebies program that my kids love. But I've brought him in because it's from a totally different angle. Yeah. We're not going to learn how to do what we do better just by looking within inside ourselves. And what you're talking about is just ultimately is innovation. It's
worst
taking something that someone's done. Yeah, 100%.
Worst thing you can do is be so one-dimensional that you only look at. Even the content I do when I look at my vlog and stuff, that's really got not really much to do with early careers. But then the content I engage with really has nothing to do with early careers. It's, different businesses, because I learn different things. Yeah, exactly. Just because I watch a guy who runs a branded goods business, again, I take good things from there. And that's the attitude you should have with content and creation, be it for your employer, brand, early careers, whatever that may be.
Well, ultimately, that's how sectors, industries change, is by doing that, and that's innovation ultimately. Yeah, is just adapting, and ultimately, look, we're doing what we're doing to make sure that people are actually starting in careers or taking the next step in their career with confidence. And if it can't just be us that does it,
exactly.
It's got to be others. So we should celebrate any great work that's out there and use it for inspiration as well.
Definitely.
Right, gents, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's been a good chat.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, good stuff.
Get to edit it.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers, guys.